So thank you, everyone. I'm up here with 3 longtime friends. It's really nice. This is a rare thing. And this is every year at the Most Powerful Women Summit and all of our Most Powerful Women events, this is the most popular topic. I asked last night how many people, or we had the question last night, how many people are on boards? I actually want to see with this group here, the full group here, how many of you are on at least one public company board? Okay, not many of you. How many of you would like to now or in the next 5 years be on a public company board? Wow. Most everybody in the room. So what we have, the 3 people we have here on stage are 3 experts who have vastly different experiences. And I think we'll show in the next 15, 20 minutes that there are many routes to getting on boards. So first of all, Gerri Elliott recently retired from Juniper Networks, where she was an EVP and one of the top executives at Juniper. At Microsoft for many years before that, longtime friend of Most Powerful Women, longtime mentor in our Fortune State Department mentoring program, former sponsor of the summit when you were at Juniper. Thank you, Gerri, for all you've done for Most Powerful Women. Caterina, who I've known, I feel like, kind of forever, even though she's very young. And it's really nice to see you, Caterina. Caterina co-founded many years ago a little company that you may have heard of called Flickr, and then founded a company called Hunch, and now has a company called Findery. So she is a serial entrepreneur and angel investor. And then Clara Shih I met a few years ago, I think maybe through Sheryl Sandberg, who is her mentor. Clara is this sort of rock star entrepreneur who has a company called Hearsay Social, which is a very hot company. Graduated from Stanford, founded Hearsay out of that. And 2 years ago, Sheryl Sandberg, when Facebook was going public, was moving off the Starbucks board because she could be on only 2 boards. Sheryl is on the Disney board, so she moved off the Starbucks board. She had introduced Howard Schultz to Clara. Lo and behold, Clara, at age 29, ended up on the Starbucks board. So I'd like to start with you, Gerri, just getting a little background on how you have come to be on, very suddenly, three corporate boards. So explain what happened there.
So it was something that I'd wanted to do for a really long time. I couldn't do it at Microsoft. We called it moonlighting. And so they weren't very supportive of serving on corporate boards. And before that, I was on IBM, and we weren't allowed. Unless you were the top executive, you couldn't be on a corporate board. So it wasn't until I got to Juniper that I thought this would be a natural progression for me in my career. And it was something I really wanted to do for the experience, for the impact, et cetera. And I thought that if I just told my small circle of friends that I wanted to be on a corporate board, it would happen. And as I said, crickets for about 6 months, nothing. And so I realized that I had to put a plan in place, a very thoughtful plan in place, if I wanted to serve on a corporate board. So I did 8 steps, and I won't take you through all of them. But the very first one was I had to figure out, I had to soul search a bit and say, what type of boards could I be of value to? What industries did I have expertise in? Of course, I've been in tech for 34 years, but what particular companies would I be very interested in serving, and what value could I provide? And I had to have that value proposition in my head. So that's point number 1. Point number 2 was I went to my CEO and chairman of my current board and asked for their support. And that's extremely important to do, because I can't tell you how many times you'll get down the path talking to a board and go back to your company and say, I'd like to serve on this board, and you may be surprised that they may not let you do that. So it's super important to get that sponsorship. I then presented to my board every opportunity I could get. So I've been in every board meeting in my companies for probably the last 12 years. either presenting or attending. And that was extremely important.
So what did you say to those Juniper directors?
I went to almost every single one of them and said, I'd really like to get on a corporate board. Would you support me? And they said yes. And that's important because your reference list to get on a corporate board is very different than your reference list to land your next operating gig. So you really have to think thoughtfully about who that is, right? And then I went and got education. I went to the Stanfords of the world or the Kellogg's of the world that will offer director education. And I did that long before I had my first interview. That will give you better questions to ask. It'll give you better insights into the experience itself. Those are just one of the.
Okay, and we're gonna hold off right now because you ended up, as you were considering when you had your consideration set, winnowed down your choices, you went through a very interesting and professional process to do that. We're gonna hold off for a second. Caterina, tell us the boards that you were on and you recently left, and tell us about why you left these board positions.
So I was on 5 boards last year, and one was a UC Berkeley board, Creative Live, which is an education company, Etsy, where I had been on board of directors for 8 years and had served as chairman for 5, and Creative Commons, which is a nonprofit board. And in some of them, my term was expiring. In some of them, the nonprofit world, it's very common to have kind of 3, 4, 5-year terms, very well defined. But I had a family crisis, which caused me to leave those boards. I had, I'm one of those people. I'm, like everyone else in this room, I'm probably one of these kind of type A people. Serving on startup boards is, as Gerri and I were discussing in the green room, extremely demanding. It's very, if you're kind of in an operational role in many ways, and you're really helping that company get on its feet and grow in order to become a public company. So the demands of serving on all of those boards, what happened is earlier this year, my stepdaughter was diagnosed with cancer. And so I basically just cleared the decks, and I said to myself, what I need to do is basically leave all of these boards. So
I think it's maybe important to, and we don't want to, invade your privacy in any way, but this was a 5-year-old step. This is a 5-year-old
yes, so very young and very aggressive. Of course, being, kind of one of these people who just kind of, has to do something. Joined up with a bunch of other people, started a cancer foundation. I'm now on the board of advisors of the Cancer Foundation. Kind of switched tacks kind of in the middle of the year. And, it kind of broke my heart in many ways. I'm, especially, leaving the Etsy board because I've been with that company since since the first angel round. I helped them raise their first angel round. There were like 2 guys in a garage. It was really kind of that kind of company, and I felt very, very connected to them and very connected to the mission of Etsy. So that was a very difficult thing for me to do. Now, fortunately, my stepdaughter's cancer is kind of reached a kind of a stable point, and of course, my inclination is always to, I'm being recruited again for some public boards, for some other startup boards. And so my inclination is actually to jump back into the game. So I'm
So I have 2 questions. So everyone, all of us, at some time in our lives, you will be on boards, and there will be a personal crisis. There will be a family crisis, and you will have to decide that you need to drop something. And hopefully you will drop the board positions, not the family crisis. And so, but
it's true. And at some point in my career, Gerri, who has retired, is now kind of serving on boards, and that is a wonderful, and someday I hope to be sitting in that chair, like slightly closer to Pattie, and 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 be
It's alphabetical
have that,
order.
have that, like,
it's
have that game.
alphabetical order, by the way.
Oh,
Just making sure.
But Caterina, I have two questions related to your very unusual and poignant experience. Now that you are looking to go on other boards, what is the most important thing you know that you didn't know when you were originally going on boards? And also, was being on boards helpful as you faced this personal crisis and you needed to find people to help you in dealing with this cancer situation?
so I would say I was a great deal less deliberate than Gerri in my joining the boards that I did. It was opportunistic. I was approached rather than kind of deciding deliberately to join boards. I had been offered kind of various opportunities, and I think early on in my career, I felt that a lot of the boards that I had joined were maybe not the best boards for me to be on. Mm-hmm. And interestingly, I would often feel as if I was not serving the board well. This happened in one or two boards that I was sitting on, where I felt like I had been too rash. I had actually I'd actually joined a board where I wasn't able to do the kind of work that I had hoped to do with them.
So how do you prevent that going forward?
I think that you have to have, I think that, frankly, Gerri's method was better than mine. Actually compiling that list of these are the companies, actually kind of going after them rather than them going after me. And so I feel as if the kind of phase 2 of this will be a great deal more deliberate, a great deal more proactive, strategic, really kind of looking at the company, meeting all of the individual board members, understanding the companies much more deeply than having it kind of
Fantastic.
happen.
And Clara, okay, you had an unusual situation where you, a great board position, Starbucks, didn't land in your lap, but you had a very valuable connection in Sheryl Sandberg and a valuable opportunity. Once you get at age 29 on the Starbucks board, I can only imagine that a few more invitations flow in. So how have you dealt with them?
Yeah, well, it's interesting that so many boards, when they're doing searches, one of the top criteria that they look at is someone who's already served on a board. So it's this chicken and egg problem. So I'd never been approached for a board position prior to Starbucks. After joining Starbucks, now I think, a few times a quarter, I'll get pinged. And I think for me, I'm just entering my 4th year on the board, and there's still so much for me to learn from a public company governance perspective. Plus, I'm running my own startup, and I think those of us who are entrepreneurs know how consuming that is. And so I haven't actively pursued any of those additional opportunities, and I've tried to funnel them to other women.
Are you considering going on other boards right now?
Not right now. I mean, I have my hands full with Hearsay is going international. We're launching these new products, and to Caterina's point,
and
I'm expecting my first child. Minor
in
detail.
March, right?
Yes.
March.
Thank you. So I think about these things, and when you're on boards, you have to travel, and you have to commit yourself wholly to understanding these new businesses. And I feel that I'm doing a good job of that today with Starbucks and my own, but probably additional boards would be down the road.
Who has a question? If no one has a, over here? Yes. Wait for the mic, please. And identify yourself.
Tanya Love from Xerox. I would like to hear the other steps that you had started talking about. Your process of getting on a board. You made it through step 4.
All right, so step 5 was then I overtly and proactively communicated out to my network. Because just what Caterina said, most of the time, depending upon the numbers you believe, it's 30% of board seats get serviced by a recruiter. The other 70%, and there's only about 300 board seats that come open every single year in the Fortune 500. The other 70% is through the network. So I decided to proactively go out to my network. I have about 1,300 contacts in my Outlook. I literally went through all of them, combed it down to about a list of 200 to 300, and I proactively reached out to that network and said, here are the boards. I'd like to get on a corporate board. Here are the types of companies. Here are the types of industries. Here are the locations. Can you help me? And I got this overwhelming response back from my network of folks who said, I didn't know. I didn't know you wanted that. I'll help you. And it was amazing. There are some companies out there that will help you. Caterina talked about the reactive process. There are some companies out there that will be proactive, that will actually work for you as a candidate and go out to the head of NomGov, to the chairman, to the CEOs, and say, I have this amazing candidate. Are you interested? And the last thing was do your due diligence. As Caterina was saying, there's some downsides, there's amazing upsides, but there's some downsides. There's personal liability, there's the time factor involved, there's a quality of the experience if you don't choose wisely. So really do your due diligence out there. Look at the governance rankings, talk to all the board members, talk to your friends who know those board members to get an idea of the type of company you'd like to join.
And did you mention, Gerri, the boards that you're now on? I think we did.
Whirlpool, Bed Bath & Beyond, and Charlotte Russe.
Do we have, yes, over here, we have a question.
Hi, Kara Golden from Hintwater. Hi, Clara. I was curious, as a board member, what do you feel like you owe the companies in sort of beyond showing up for board meetings? How do you measure yourself as being a good board member?
I think that's a great question. It depends on why you're being brought onto the board. And I think there's typically two paths. And one is, it goes back to what Poppy and Roz were talking about earlier this morning, that you are a GM. You own a large P&L, you're CEO of a publicly traded company, you're sitting a retired CEO. The other way is that you bring some sort of domain expertise. That's what happened to me. Starbucks views itself as much as a technology company as it does a coffee company. I came from the technology world, and increasingly I'd say that a lot of the director searches that I've come across or that have reached me, that's the profile that they're looking for. Or you're bringing some sort of international domain expertise for China or for BRIC, or you're bringing people and HR expertise. And so based on that, I think in addition to the general, making sure that you're prepared for board meetings and serving on various committees like NomGov or compensation or audit, it's what can you bring from the lens of that domain knowledge that you were brought on the board to do.
Know your value and be proactive, not reactive. I think those are the best two pieces of advice that we've gotten today. Thank you, Gerri, Caterina, and Clara.